me. Let me start that introduction again. This is the second episode in our Go Wild with Wikis, which is being done in conjunction with EduBlogs Live and Classroom 2.0. The whole purpose of this series is to give people that are new to using these web technologies enough skills so that they can start using it with their students, but also hopefully for those that are more experienced, they can be helping us out and sharing their ideas, plus also getting some extra tips. So for those that don't know that much about me, I'm facilitating these sessions, and the whole way in which I like to do these is to encourage as much conversation as possible to happen. So you'll see that I'll ask quite a bit for people to pick up the microphone, to use the chat area to write on the whiteboards, because it's really about a conversation, and we like to have as much conversation as possible. In terms of who I'm about, I do work for EduBlogs, and I blog on the EduBlogger. A lot of people are familiar with that. I went for a different picture today. I thought you might be interested in knowing a little bit about some of the other work I do. And my other job is I'm an aquaculture lecturer. I teach people how to farm fish. And this is one of the boats that I get to go out on occasionally, and that takes about 40 people. A little bit of a sidetrack today. In terms of experience, a large part of what I do for EduBlogs is teaching educators on how to use technologies, regardless of what type of technologies. So to get started for the day, it's always great to start off with where you are. And if you can just click on the pointer in your left, and I get my hands back front, but in your left area you'll be able to grab the pointer and point where you are. I'm located right here in Perth, Western Australia. So if we can just indicate on the map where you're from, and if you want, you can be writing in the chat area a little bit about yourself. So we've got excellent, we've got quite a few people from North America. We've got a few people from Australia. I know we've got a couple from Egypt today, so it's really, really early in the morning there, so we really appreciate the fact that you've joined us here, and thanks for being up in the middle of the night to join us. Now, last time we were talking about wikis, and this is a quick screenshot of my wiki, which is quite well known, and it's all about building your own personal learning network. And I'm just bringing up that screenshot to remind those that were here that this is what we're talking about, wikis, and for those that weren't here in the last session, to just quickly go over the fact that what wikis are. So can I just start off at the beginning and get somebody to grab the mic and just quickly tell us what is a wiki? Okay, let's try that again. There's chocolates involved. If somebody picks up the mic, we will have some virtual chocolate happening. So if somebody can give me a very quick definition of what they see a wiki is.
I think a wiki is where you can collaborate together. It's an editable web page that can be edited by anyone who's a member of that particular wiki.
Excellent definition, and you can everybody please clap, and I'll put the clap going, because that was an excellent job. I put you on the spot. And wikis are, as you said, as simple as that, that you can quickly edit a wiki and by click on the edit button, and you can build yourself a very quick website, and that's what wikis are about. And today what I'm going to be talking mostly about is the collaboration aspect that you just brought up with wikis. And what I want to remind you all of is this: although at the moment we're talking about the tool and we're using a tool for an outcome. And often when we do these sort of Web 2.0 sessions, we spend a lot of time talking about the tool, and we're using this tool, and then by using that tool, ultimately we're trying to achieve that outcome. And some of the comments on my posts recently have been talking about the outcome they're trying to achieve with the tool. And so before I start, I just want to remind everybody of this sort of fact. And I'm going to use an example of fish farming, even though you might not be able to relate to it, but hopefully you'll remember it when you're thinking about using a tool for a task. But imagine, we get a lot of people in my industry that already have a great location. So they've got a house and it might be located on the river, and one day they wake up and they think, I'm going to be a fish farmer because I think it would be just great to sit there and cast my rod into the river or the pond, and I'm going to make lots of money from being a fish farmer. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put all these cages outside my front door near the river, and I'm going to make all this money from this fish, and it's going to be great. And it's a perfect location because this is where it's located. The only trouble is that they started out with a great idea, but they already owned the location, and they set about trying to achieve that outcome based on that whole point that they were going to always start with that original situation, and there would be no way that you would ever be able to put a fish farm in front of the opera house. So, and it's a common problem that we see happening with new people. New fish farmers will do that, and new people using online tools will do exactly the same thing. They will start with that tool, so they'll have very set ideas that they're going to use a particular tool for a task. And then from using that tool, they're going to get the outcome. You always need to go from the opposite direction, which is always hard, but think about what is your outcome. What am I trying to achieve? The fish farmer is trying to achieve the fish. In our case, what are we trying to achieve? Think about, why are we using it in the first place, and then choose the tool or tools based on being the best tool for that job. So just always focus on the fact that always use the right tool for the job, and that's probably the most common trap that new people fall into, is that they try to make the wrong tool fit the outcome they're trying to achieve. So today we're talking about using Wikis for collaboration, and Wikis are great for project type work where you're pulling together a project, or you've got some final tasks that you're trying to complete, or you're trying to do some collaborative work. That's where they are really great. And these great collaborative projects where you're getting students working on a particular task together are a really good way to go, as well as if you want to do it globally and have students around the world connecting up together, then they're a great way to go. But before I start talking about collaboration, it'd be really handy to know how much experience you've had with Wikis. So if you can go to the top of the screen and click on the green check mark or tick, depending on where you are in the world, if you have used Wikis in any way to collaborate with students. If you've never used them, can you press the red cross? And if we can get that totaled up, do that as quickly as possible, we'll put the final outcome on the board. So as quickly as possible, almost done. So while Wikis are really great for things like I do, where I resource share and there's just me writing that information up there, they're even better where you get several people working together on the same page. So Carol, do you want to quickly publish those results and write them on the whiteboard for me? Right, so we've got text tool. 28 have and 14 haven't. Great, so I have to remember that. So a lot of these tools that we use online, one of the best aspects of them is that we can have students working together and collaborating together to do the work together. And the benefit of that is that you can get greater innovation. So there's lots of other benefits as to why you might want to get your students collaborating with an online tool. Here I've got an example of just one person trying to do a task. What I want to do is drop the microphone. I want people to pick up the pen for the whiteboard and be writing on the whiteboard. So on this screen you can see the letter A on the left, the far left-hand side. That A is a better A for writing on the whiteboard. So if I can get you to click on the A and start writing on the whiteboard as to all the different reasons why you might want to get your students collaborating. Plus I'm also going to drop the microphone and beg some of you to pick up the mic and start talking about all the different reasons you might think you want to get your students collaborating. So I'm trying to get you thinking about what is the outcome you're trying to achieve, and then how do you achieve that with the wiki.
Okay, I'll jump in there while there's a little space. I've used wikis mainly for collaboration for my learners who happen to be teachers, because that's my role as an e-mentor. And I find that having a wiki space for them as they're getting into e-learning gives them an opportunity to practice writing on the web, keeping a blog on the web, sharing URLs on the web, and collecting information and tasks from the wiki. And it's all in one neat place. I also have a few of my teachers who are experimenting right now with having their learners create a wiki as their e-portfolio. And the particular kind of wiki that I like is called Wet Paint. And they use that to keep their artifacts for their learning.
Who else would like to? Thank you, Carol. And can we get some more people grabbing the mic while I'm trying to move around the lettering on the board? And if the other moderators can help me try moving around the lettering, that would be even better. Sorry, Sal, your mic didn't work. I had to take it away from you. Can I get you to go up to Tools, Audio Setup, and just try using your microphone to the audio setup to get it working? Can I get somebody else to pick up the mic? Sorry, same again. Can I also get you to go up the top and try Tools, Audio Setup, and see if we can get that audio happening as well for you? Because it's much better if we can get audio going. Can somebody else try the audio?
It might be helpful for kids if they have problems with homework. They could go on and just write down their question, and maybe one of their classmates or the teacher could respond.
Yeah, excellent point. And that's a great way that people can be using it. And if you look at what we're doing here with writing on the whiteboard, technically we're collaborating, although it looks quite messy at the moment because we've got a lot of people writing on the whiteboard. We are collaborating, and we're slowly moving it around, and we're sharing our ideas. And I can tell you right now that when we do this sort of situation and we're sharing all the ideas, that we will come up with better ideas than if I had written this on the whiteboard and try to explain it to you. So can I get somebody to pick up the microphone, or somebody that's been watching the whiteboard and trying to come up with some of the key points that they're seeing being written on the whiteboard?
Hello?
Sorry, I took the mic off you because the sound wasn't working, and then suddenly it started working. Can I try getting you to talk again?
would think that my students would get more motivated to our learning if they know that the other students are reading what they are writing.
And that's exactly correct. And it's the same with blogging. We find that when people know they're doing it with a global audience, they suddenly, it engages them, and it makes them want to get more involved with doing it. Somebody's put their hand up, so I'm hopefully going to get them to talk now.
I just have a question. The wiki, is it like a blog in that it's sort of static? You can go in and change it, but it's not like you're talking to each other right away like we are on this whiteboard.
Yes and no. I you know, because I'm coming from a blogging background, I see blogging far more like a conversation like we're having here. Whereas blogging is great for reflection and for conversation. Wikis are great for pulling together final products. So if, say for example, you wanted your students to do a report on a particular area of science, and you got your students together researching that topic and then presenting that information on the topic, that's the power of a wiki. Whereas something like a blog is great for them to reflect on what they're doing. Ruth, did you want to chat?
Yes, I did a wiki for a totally different reason. I needed parent volunteers to help in the computer lab with AR testing, so I put up a wiki for teachers to sign up to use the lab at that time with a parent's help. And that way they could log on, see what times were available, and sign in. I also did one for my son's cross-country team, and they signed up for snacks the same way. And that way nobody had to call anybody. Everybody just logged on, filled in their spot, and it was done.
Yeah, and that's another example of how you can collaborate using a wiki for planning. I think, Nancy, you wanted to quickly chat? If you put your hand up, please feel free to just grab the microphone as soon as you see it's free. It's fine to grab the microphone.
Okay, well, you asked that we kind of sum up what we saw on the whiteboard, and I see a couple of things. One, there's a couple of places where it talks about the kids learning how to work with each other and preparing for being able to do that in the future, and that's a really important thing that we teach them in the class. But this is maybe a little different than working with someone sitting right next to them. Somebody in the chat mentioned that it's mostly asynchronous. And then there's also some mention of the kids creating stuff, creating textbooks or creating content that they're creating content that can be used later. So those are just a couple of the things that I saw that linked up.
And you've done an excellent job of summarising some of those points. I mean, there are so many great points on that board, which is why I try to encourage everyone to do that. Does somebody else want to sum up as well what they're interpreting, what we've written up on the board?
Hi, I like the immediacy of a wiki. I worked with a Latin teacher, and I'm a librarian, and we had the kids doing a lot of research and mostly having to also cite their sources. And instead of just having them put up stuff that wasn't appropriate, we could interact with the kids and give them pointers and things like that. And I think the kids learned a whole lot more than just handing in a report and getting a grade at the bottom and say you cited your sources wrong and you cut and pasted. And it was a better learning process for the kids.
Yeah, I agree. It's definitely a better learning process because to create that content and put that content online, the students have to do a much deeper level of thinking, and then when all the other students are working together and collaborating, they're questioning it a lot more, and that's why you get that sort of deeper learning happening. Does somebody else want to pick up the mic?
Yes, hi. The question is, can you hear me? Hello?
Yeah, you sound fine now. Can I get you to try again?
Yes.
Okay, so can you tell us your question? Ask the question. Okay, we've lost that, so I'll keep, yeah, you've got to keep your finger on the mic, sorry. And I know it takes a bit longer doing it this way, but I can tell you that the conversation is better if I try and encourage it.
I like the idea of the continuous feedback. That opportunity gives teachers a real great opportunity to do some formative assessment.
Yeah, I agree. It really does, and I mean, there's so much about all these aspects of collaboration and the benefit to the educator and the benefit to the students, and I will definitely take a screenshot of all these things and summarize it on my post for the review of it, because there's so much information everyone's shared here, and I'm clapping that I will follow up and we'll go through it later. But one thing that I like to talk about was collaboration when we start doing it. So if you're new and you come away from this session and you go, wow, that's a really great idea. I'm going to get my students to work in pairs on a wiki, and I'm going to do a project, and they're going to research a fact about the environment, and then they're going to write up on this wiki. Maybe it might be in teams of 3. You can get led very astray very easily by one simple fact, is that we make an assumption in life that people know how to collaborate. We do the same assumption with students as we do with adults, and we assume that people naturally understand what the rules of collaboration are and how you collaborate and how you work together. And yet the thing is, it's not something that people naturally understand. I've seen a couple really classic examples of collaboration, and it really is an important skill that we need to be teaching our students, because these are skills that will help them in their learning now and their future career. And a classic example was, I was involved in an online session, and we were using Google Presentation, and we were broken up into groups of 6 people, and we were told to prepare a presentation on something. So you had 6 people working together who were meant to be collaborating to prepare a Google presentation. What you had was 6 people working on 6 separate slides, totally independently of themselves. And these are educators who weren't collaborating, who weren't sharing ideas and pulling their presentation together. That was not collaboration. I've seen the same with my own work, where we've used wikis and it's meant to be collaboration, and different people's interpretation of what collaboration is doesn't happen. And so you really need to set the guidelines very soon to understand and to model and to teach your students what collaboration is about. So I'm going to bring up this whiteboard, and yes, I'm going to ask people to write their ideas again, but I'm also going to drop the mic in the hope that some of you can come up and explain some examples where you've seen what you thought was meant to be collaboration go really bad in an online environment, so that other people understand the dangers if they don't explain to the students how to collaborate well. Okay, so what we're trying to do is, how do you teach your students how to collaborate online? So what are some of the instructions you give to your students? Does anybody have any other stories that can grab the mic of where they thought that they were teaching their students about collaboration, and then what they ended up happening was this sad dog look at the bottom, where you've got somebody sulking because one person's doing all the work, or their work's being overwritten by other people because nobody's understood what collaboration is?
A problem the first time I tried any kind of collaboration online, with the kids wanting to kind of make a joke out of, they thought it was funny to sign in as somebody else or sign somebody else's name, or that sort of thing, which surprised me. But that's what happened the first time I tried, and probably because I hadn't done, I made assumptions about how they would approach it.
I think the first time I tried collaboration on a wiki was with a work colleague, and it went so badly wrong that we ended up in huge fights where the manager had to intervene, and it was surely that our whole idea of what collaboration was about and how we approached it was so totally different. And if you don't set those ground rules in place before you start it just becomes this nightmare.
Why I shied away from it for a while after that.
I can totally understand. I mean, from a work point of view, I've been very cautious to take that approach since. And you know, you soon learn as to what does and doesn't work. Whereas from my students' point of view, I've learned very quickly that if you set the ground rules and you discuss with them very early on, the fact that most people don't understand what collaboration is and that they as a team have to plan and work together and discuss the collaboration, then it starts working a lot better. Do you want to just pick up the mic? You just need to click on the mic and then just hold it, just click on it once and it will stay on. If you click it twice, it will hang up.
Okay, could you please explain to me how do you start Wiki right at the beginning? I have never done this before.
Okay, the next session in 2 weeks' time, we're going to start right at the beginning of pulling together a wiki, and you're going to set up a wiki and hopefully and work through it. So we will be covering that next week. Not next week, 2 weeks' time. Okay, yes, Carol, if I can get you to pop in the link of my wiki in the meantime, that will help. And I've also got one on my personal, the other wiki. Can I get somebody to help me review what's on the whiteboard, because everyone's been putting some great points up on there while I've been talking, and I know that I'm going to have missed most things. Mic didn't work again. Can I get somebody else to try? Okay, I'm dropping the mic and somebody else is going to try the mic for me.
Can someone explain if there is advantageous use of wikis over Google Docs?
Oh, that's an excellent question. And for those that aren't aware, a lot of people now are moving towards Google Documents to share and collaborate with. And the main reason that there's two main reasons that people are using Google Documents. The reason one is that one of the troubles with wikis is that students can overwrite information really easily. So if you've got more than one person working on a wiki page at the same time, one will wipe out the work of another, and that's called a wiki war. And the other reason that people will choose a wiki over Google Documents or vice versa is whether they want it public or private. So if you want the whole world to see and to be able to interact, generally you will go for a wiki. If the collaboration aspect with your students is more important and you don't care about people being able to see, you'll generally go for a Google document. But please, other people pipe up and say why they do it.
I would say one of the reasons is I believe that to be able to do the Google Docs, the kids have to have a Google account, and my kids are too young for me to be giving them Google email accounts, or rather Gmail email accounts. And so if I have the wiki space, I can create accounts for them without them having an additional email account beyond the one the school gives them.
Yeah, and that's another valid reason. So what some schools are doing is they're getting Google Apps to get around that. so that they've got a Google account for all their students. So you tend to find that people are either using wikis in this way to collaborate or Google Documents, and they're balancing that based on the features they're looking for. Now, how are we going on the board here? Have people been able to manage to read it, or can I get somebody summarising it for me quickly?
A big thing seems to be creating rules and having the students assess one another and themselves on their performance. Yeah.
So definitely the rules, and you know, a lot of these online tools that we're working with, we really need to get those rules up front. There's no difference between any of them. It's like lay the ground rules right at the beginning. In terms of a wiki, you need to lay, if it's collaboration, you need to lay down those rules of collaboration very, very early on. And start educating them about what is collaboration and what you're expecting. A really good point that Anne makes, I can never say her last name, apologies, is because she does a lot of work with wikis, is that, you know, teach your students how to use that discussion tab a lot. So do a lot of the collaboration and sharing of ideas first in the discussion tab on a wiki. And how about I bring up my wiki just to show that, and then you do that discussion there on the wiki, and then you start writing the content. So if somebody can just quickly grab the mic and just ask some more questions while I find a wiki to show.
Yeah, just while Sue's doing that, I've just picked out one of those points that's on the whiteboard that resonated with me quite well, and that one is collaboration is about establishing expectations and modelling appropriate behaviour in the wiki environment. And I think that's where the teachers need to be quite comfortable in doing that for themselves. And so the best way to start teaching with wikis is to actually start learning with wikis. And you've done one of the best things in joining Sue here today on doing that. And please come back for the third one, where you can actually work with Sue to create a wiki of your own. How are you going there, Sue? You're right now?
Yes, I am. Thanks for that, and that's why I've got several moderators helping me. Basically, my philosophy with all these online tools is to encourage you first to start using them yourself, so that you feel how differently it changes your learning and you appreciate how you use them. And then once you've used them for your own learning, you then start using them with your students. So I'm just bringing up I'm going to go into application sharing. My apologies if you're seeing my Twitter window coming up. And I might become like a chipmunk in a second. Can we all see that wiki okay? Can you click on the smiley face if you can see the wiki? Oh, great, you can see it. Okay, so for those that aren't aware, this is part of the Flat Classroom series of projects, which I'm going to talk about in a minute if I get time, because I notice I'm running out of time. But they use the discussion tab a lot, and that's where they're encouraging their students to work on it. So, for example, this one on this project that the students have had to do on mobiles, if you click on there, you'll have several students that are located in different countries that have to work on this project together. How they're meant to be doing it is they're encouraged to use the discussion tab and be discussing their ideas about the wiki and how they're meant to be using it and the content, and exchanging ideas in there. That is quite a hard skill to teach your students, and you'll see that the students are struggling with that aspect, but that's something that you need to be getting them to do as much of the collaboration as possible about how we're going to approach the task and what are we going to do using the mechanism of things like the discussion tab. Once they've discussed all their ideas and worked out how they're going to do it, and here we're talking if they're based in different countries. Obviously, if they're in a classroom situation, they would be doing it face-to-face. If they're doing it from home, they'd be using the discussion tab. Once they've done all that process, then they'd be pulling it together and writing the content together and collaborating on the content and editing it together. So that's the whole way in which you would do it on a wiki sort of situation. I will be, once again, taking a screenshot of this section, and I'll be writing some extra notes of some of the tips that I use with collaboration. I'm going to drop the mic so you can give your feedback or ask your question.
What if you have a student who's not very good at writing? Is there a way that they could make an audio file for discussion?
And that's in fact what I encourage educators to think about, is the fact that while you might, and everybody's engaged by different tools, so while you might have some people that are really into text and liking writing text, you could get other students using audio or other students using video. It doesn't really matter, as long as they're preparing the content. Students learn just as much from creating an audio or a video as writing text. You can upload audio and video directly into your wiki, just as you can to a blog or a lot of these online tools. So excellent. Has that answered the question? So it's a very easy process to upload the audio and embed the audio or take it from other locations. So the classroom projects is the projects that, in terms of large global collaborative projects, that are an idea for you definitely to check out. If you want to see how empowering wikis are with students, these are the projects you need to be checking out. Can I get you to click on the green check mark if you've already checked out the flat classroom projects, or the red check mark if you've never heard of them before? Great. So we do have quite a few people that haven't heard of their projects. Well, somebody that has, can I get you to grab the audio and just share your thoughts about the flat classroom projects? Ernie, have you got a mic? Can you talk about your experience with being involved with them? Oh, okay, sorry. Please feel free to write in the chat area a little bit about it. Great, thanks a lot. You know, if you're going to talk about the empowering projects that you can get involved with using wikis and how you can collaborate, the Flat Classroom Project series are the ones that you really should look at, because they give you a lot of ideas of how you could be using wikis in your own classroom and how you might use them to collaborate. Both Vicky and Julie are, you know, some of the most highly experienced people using wikis because with students to collaborate, because they've been doing it for a long time. And if you read blogs, I strongly recommend that you subscribe to both of their blogs, because they share so much information about it. So they started their projects in 2006, and the original project, everyone in their series is generally based on a particular book and what they do, or a particular report, and what they do is they break up their projects into sections, and then they get their students to collaborate with students around the world. So there'll be lots, and schools around the world have to submit to be part of the project and have to show that they are willing to do the high level of commitment required to participate. And then students in one country will collaborate with students in another country, and by doing that, they will write up information about it from their point of view. So, for example, that example I showed you about mobiles was all about mobile. I think they range in age, but Ernie, can you answer that question? What is the age of the teachers? All the students and teachers that become involved in the Flat Classroom Project series have gained so much from it. Grade 9 onwards. Thanks, you, Sue. So the original project was based on the World is Flat, and if you haven't read that book, I strongly recommend that you read that book. then, so generally I think from memory they're twice a year. So first part of the year you have one project, and the second part of the year you have the other project. They're similar to the student blogging challenge in that they go over a very short length of time. The Horizon project was based on the Horizon report by the New Media Consortium, which this year has been combined with the Net Generation project. Let me just go back a bit. If you're familiar with Vicky's work, she's very passionate about the whole fact that it's really important for us as educators to make our students more culturally aware. Through projects like the Flat Classroom project, the students gain a lot more of an understanding of each other's cultures. Because they have to communicate with each other while they're preparing their work and uploading it. They learn more about where each other lives, and it breaks down some of the misinformation that we have about each other. Just as on Twitter, we'll have what might be seen as meaningless conversations, for example, of words that we use. It helps break down that cultural things that we're going on. It also teaches them the collaboration skills. So originally the Flat Classroom projects were about connecting up students and students collaborating and learning about each other. They've now taken their whole series of projects to the absolute next level, where not only are students collaborating together and educators are collaborating with the students, they're now getting an author collaborating together. And that's the power of these sort of projects, is where you can get experts in. I mean, projects that you do where you collaborate with your students on a wiki don't have to be anywhere near as big as these ones. Kerry, do you want to pick up the mic?
When you were talking about the kids becoming culturally aware, it just occurred to me that only the kids who have access to these type of tools are going to be able to use it. So are kids going to get a skewed view of the world because of all the kids out there who don't have a voice?
I think, sorry, I'm losing my voice now. I think any time that you have an opportunity to talk to somebody from a different location, you are automatically becoming more culturally aware. I'm forever in my conversations online suddenly realizing that I've had a lot of misconceptions about people located in other places that have been corrected as a result of the conversations I engage with and the collaboration that happens. But somebody else pick up the mic and share their thoughts on that.
Yeah, I'll just pop in again and make a point for you, Carrie, and anyone else who's thinking along these lines that, you know, is it going to be more difficult for people to get access to the tools? In my view, it will become much easier. Things are going to change very rapidly, and we've already gone through a very rapid change here in the use of the Read, Write web. And as we gain more momentum with the use of Web2 tools appropriately, and that is through the modelling of the teachers who are currently using them online, then you're going to get a stream of demand from new students in schools and, of course, into higher education. So I think it's going to make a really great change to the way in which we start communicating globally.
And you know, that was a point that I made in the last session, is that what these tools do is allow us to communicate in ways that we never could before. And those that will succeed will gain if we give them these, you know, yes, we'll succeed regardless, but it will help us better if we're more able to use these tools well. So the reason why I'm showing you their projects is I don't I'm not saying get involved with the Flat Classroom project. I mean, these are huge projects. I'm saying take some of the ideas from these projects and use them when you go to use them with students, because they give you a good idea of what you can do and how empowering they can be with your students. So, and you know, a common question that people will ask me is, well, I'm using a wiki and I'm doing this. There's so much more to it. So just let me explain to you, you know, you don't just use one tool, because one tool might not necessarily achieve the outcome. If you look at the Flat Classroom project, you've got to focus on, you know, these things. You know, all tools need some way of communicating, connecting, collaborating, creating. Well, in the Flat Classroom project, what have they done to make that happen? Well, to communicate, they're using a Ning. All of the students involved in it are part of a Ning. Just like Classroom 2.0 is a Ning, as is, you know, they are using a Ning. And there's a lot of reasons why a Ning is great for communicating. Other people won't use a Ning, they will use a blog. Regardless, think about how you're going to get, if you're going to do it across locations, you needed to use it to communicate. Connecting, well, they're connecting across large areas, so they're using Illuminate just as we use here. If you were just using it within your classroom, you might have some sort of instant messaging system where they could connect outside of class. It doesn't have to be as elaborate as Illuminate, but just think about how you can connect. How are they going to collaborate? Well, they're collaborating on the wiki. What are they going to create? Not only are they creating text, but they're creating a video. Every single one of their projects has to have a video as part of their content that they're creating. That's one of the features. So if you want to have a look at their Ning, and I'll bring that up. If you just wait a second, I'm going to drop the mic so somebody else can talk, and then I'm going to bring up their Ning so that you can see how they're using the Ning. So 2 seconds, somebody grab the mic.
Okay, I'll jump in there. Is anyone wanting to make a comment or ask a question at this stage?
Yeah, rightio. It looks like I'm on talk. I can't see my name there. It was interesting listening in the back channel when Julie and Vicky were running their session in Qatar, which I think was the final session of one of their Flat Classroom projects. And there were students there in Qatar from USA, Qatar, Australia, and various other countries of the world. And a lot of what the kids then wrote on their blogs about the way that they had to collaborate together and work together. And the one thing that they found really interesting was that kids all around the world are the same. It doesn't matter what country you come from, what religion you are. They found that the kids were always the same. And so that was really interesting to listen to at their final sessions when the students presented.
And I think that is an important thing for us to be realise is, you know, we build up this misconception of what, you know, what each other's like, and these sort of projects bring it down. So as I keep saying, I'm not saying you have to get involved with these really large collaborative projects. Start small and be doing it within your classroom, but just look at how they're doing these large projects, because you can learn a lot from how they are modelling collaboration with their projects. So for communication, they use this Ning that I've just brought up. And each student will have their own page. They can be discussing things in the forum. So they had conversations led in here by Don, and the students were interacting with him. They could upload videos, they could write blog posts, they could comment on each other's page. It was a way in which they could communicate and connect with each other. Then they were pulling together their work on the wiki. So the topics on each group was divided into topics. So some wrote up information and presented information on mobiles. Some did it on cloud computing. Some did it on geo everything. So I've got the ideas there. Just go to each page, go through the different ones of theirs, and just see how they've been doing what they're doing. Read through that discussion tab. Look at the conversations they've had and take on board what has been good and what have they struggled with, because you gain a lot from what they've been getting up to. And I've given you the links there, and I'll make sure I put all the links in the blog post. We don't really have enough time to do this, but one of the dangers you have on a wiki is called a wiki war, where people overwrite each other. We're probably not going to have a lot of time to brainstorm this, but I'm just going to go and quickly get a link to my blog post where people have been writing about all the traps that you can fall in with using wikis with students and ways around them. So if I can get you all talking about any of the concepts we've spoken about today, or putting up your own tips here, or advice on which wiki you suggest people try out, please go for it, because we've only got 4 minutes left.
Thanks, Sue. Look, I noticed that quite a few people have just joined in. Perhaps you're coming in at the last minute here and wondering what on earth we're talking about. Sue's been talking about the importance of collaboration in choosing a Web2 tool to suit a purpose. And the wiki is the one we're focused on today. But we've kind of gone off into various tangents. But we'd be really interested to know from those new to the session, or those who've been listening for the hour, to come on now to the microphone and just give us your insight into what you've learned today from Sue's presentation. So don't be shy, just pick up the microphone and tell us what you're thinking. Okay, maybe I should pick on someone. Is Nancy still here? Nancy, do you want to come back, or Carrie? Just give us a final thought that you might have gained from today's session, please.
Hi, it's Nancy. I feel sometimes overwhelmed with the whole process of trying to get the teachers to collaborate with me. I'm a librarian, and I think their time is one of the biggest problems I have. I teach the kids how to use wikis, and I do a practice wiki with them, and then I get a teacher involved in it. And I just think teacher time for me is my biggest problem.
Yeah, great point. It's the particular thing that we have the least of these days. And, bringing up that point about time, I think having a wiki space in which you can collaborate has the potential of saving a great deal of time. Anyone else like to make a comment or ask a question? Please go ahead and pick up the mic.
I think the biggest thing I picked up from the session was starting with a mission or a goal and then picking the tool. Sometimes I get excited about the fun things that are out there and I don't really go anywhere with it.
And can Kim or Carol find that virtual chocolate? Because that was really the whole message today that I was really trying to make sure that people keep remembering, because it's a trap that we all fall into. Is we get so caught up in the tool that we forget what at the end of the day we're trying to achieve.
Hi, can you hear me? I started a wiki in my class, mainly to use the tool. I didn't have really the objective. I can see that now. I didn't prepare the kids with the rules ahead of time. I didn't know what the rules needed to be. But now I can see what happened. Once the kids learned to use the email, I lost control of the wiki, and I had inappropriate things going on, had to shut it down. But one good thing we had on our wiki, we had a page for the principal, and I got him interested because I let the kids ask questions to the principal, and he would come on every day and look at them and answer their questions. And that was a fun page that we had on our wiki.
Yes, Susan, and I really was glad that when you wrote that onto the blog post, because I'm very experienced with using all these tools, and I wouldn't have even thought about that potential danger with the emails. So it was really good that you brought that to everyone's attention, because we need to, we can't plan for everything, but if we know the challenge that other people have faced, we can then go about then making everything better for everyone else.
Yes, and I think that if I'd had more of the rules set ahead of time, I would have done a lot better with it. And I keep saying to people, the more you practice just for your own personal use, and then the more you use with students, it does get easier. So, I'd never encourage somebody to start off with some big, massive global projects like Vicky and Julie do, but start off yourself. So use it first for your own learning, or use it, if you've got an interest, if you've got a sports club that you're interested in and you'd like to be putting stuff up there, use it there to practice there. Then as you feel more comfortable, then start using it with your students. Then you start getting a clear way of which you're using it. I've got lots of examples where it didn't work the first time, and you know what? Most things in life don't work the first time, but you just keep trying and it will happen.
Excellent comments from our audience today, Sue. I think they've wrapped up a lot of the learning gathering by the amount of flurry on the whiteboard and in the picture. And I found some chocolate for you. It's on your next page if you want to award that to some of our brave speakers today.
She's given us some Twitteraholic. I think she deserves a clap for bringing that one together pretty quickly. So, as she said, we really do appreciate all the way in which you're pulling together your ideas and jumping on the microphones. I know that when I give you this sort of task of jumping on the microphones, it is quite challenging because a lot of you probably aren't so used to it. I like the trying to collaborate on the whiteboard and sharing ideas. Obviously, I've got to think about some better ways in which we can do it. I mean, this week we've had 53 people doing it. Last week we had 100 people doing it, and that's probably more to do with the fact that we've got two sessions clashing. Congratulations, Susan. I'm so glad you did speak, and make sure you have some of that chocolate. If anyone's got some ideas and tips of how I could be getting people to exchange ideas, and share ideas that might work better than me getting you to write notes on the whiteboard, please feel free to share your thoughts, because this is a working together type session. Dropping the mic if you wanted to talk. So we have now finished our session on Wikis for this week, and 2 weeks' time we will be doing more hands-on sessions where we will be going in and editing and going through the whole process. If we will be working with wiki spaces, so it definitely will be a case of getting your hands dirty, and it could be interesting. I'm quite happy to stay on here for a while and discussing all these things. Can I get somebody to finish off by trying to read the notes on the whiteboard and tell me what messages they're getting out of the whiteboard here at the moment?
Okay, let me have a go at this from the top down. Someone likes to play with the WebTube tools first, then develop a project around them, and students can then develop authorship and ownership. I like that comment very much. Someone really likes Wiki Spaces. They love the controls because it also has excellent support via email. And clear framework built so that students know where to put their stuff. I think that's so important with Wikis, because you can do anything, some structure is required. PB works for them because it's the first one they've used and they feel most comfortable with. I think that's a good comment to make, that you choose one that you like and you probably will stick with it. I'm a big advocate of that wet paint because of that. Lots of people are using Wikispaces and PB Works, wet paint. An objective here, help teachers with tech standards. Goal, have the teachers' collaboration in great sites and use the tool, which you can click on there, it's a live link on mets.wikispaces.com. And right at the bottom there, PB Works more like a web page formally on, depending on what you need and the way you work with it. So I hope we've summarised that on the whiteboard for you. Remember, you can take a snapshot of that if you like by going into File, Save, Whiteboards.
Thanks for helping me out there, Carol. I've been too busy moving words around. So I'm just laughing at the and telephone too. Can somebody click the smiley face for the way if you put there and telephone too? And I'd love to know which company's using the telephone. Looks like nobody's admitting to that one. Obviously, one of the wiki companies has allows people to ring them. You know, and I do have to say that working for EduBlogs, it's a common complaint is that users would love to be able to contact us by phone. I admire a wiki company that allows their users to contact them by phone, but with over 300,000 users on our system, 24 hours a day, I would not enjoy answering the phone. I also need to say, because I forgot to at the end, that this session was supported by Illuminate, and we'd like to thank Illuminate for this providing us with this mechanism. And you can get your own free Illuminate room. I'm not sure which link I'm meant to give. Let me give a link for ours. It has exactly all the same features as this, except that it's limited to only 3 other people, and you can do everything except do a recording. So let me get the link for you to get your own free one if you'd like. Sorry, I've got the mic still. I'm just getting the link. Here you go. If you'd like to get a V room, there you go. Yeah, I've got to make sure I get the sponsor in there. If you can click on that link, you can have your own free V room. I'm willing to stay in here for a while if anybody wants to ask any questions. And Carol, if you can stop the recording, that would be excellent. So please feel free to ask any questions. And thanks Classroom 2.0 Illuminate for working together with us on this series.
Thank you, Sue. Let's have a big round of applause for Sue. We're a lot of hard work today, and let's do it in the traditional Illuminate way. Thanks, guys. And I'll now stop the recorder.